Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the third round for the 2021 PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge, live from the virtual Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This is an event of PCA Sim Racing presented by Hagerty. James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports, here alongside Taylor Burris, Rachel Whiteford, and our producer for the evening, Ryan Power. And Taylor, Road America, this is a place that has plenty of history when it comes to PCA sim racing and plenty of history in real life. It's one of the foremost road courses in the United States and quite the venue to set us up for the penultimate race of this Zone Group Challenge qualifying round.
It certainly is, and good evening, everyone. Road America provides a mix of amazing, high speeds and a lot of technical, hard-braking areas for these drivers to try and master. Of course, you have corners such as the Kink, the Carousel, and Canada Corner, where we'll see a lot of great racing action from start to finish with these Porsches, and drivers are going to have to be on the utmost respect to take care of their equipment and survive here at the hallowed grounds of Road America.
This really is an intriguing circuit, Rachel, because it gives you just about everything. Long straightaways for straight line speed, long corners where you have to manage the throttle and make sure you've got enough downforce into your setup so that you don't give up time, elevation changes, hard, tight technical sections, weird braking zones, fast corners as well. Just about anything you want here in some way, shape, or form, Road America has it for you.
Yes, it absolutely does, James. Road America is a beautiful circuit. We've got fast, high-speed sections. We have twisty sections. It is a tricky track, especially with rear-engined cars. It really gives them something difficult to get a hold of, and the mid-engined Porsche RSR, it really does give the drivers a serious challenge, but it's also an incredibly fast track, and that speed will give us some great racing.
Will indeed give us some great racing. As you see, some of the contenders in our first class of the evening. As always, it's the Challenge Class, which is presented to you this evening by Z1 Dashboard. Robert Rose, who went to victory not too long ago, is the man in your screens right now. And by not too long ago, we mean how about last week? Sonoma Raceway, he was victorious out there, Taylor Burris, and looking to go for 2 wins in a row in 3 races.
He certainly has been, and Robert Rose is definitely showing the pace again here tonight at Road America, setting currently the fastest time in qualifying, actually the only driver in this class to be under the 2-minute mark. So a great performance right now for him. We'll see if anybody else might have something for him, but as of right now, nobody has been able to break under the 2-minute mark except Robert Rose.
Robert Rose has a very good handle on this already. His fastest qualifying time is a 1:59.953. He is the only driver in our opening class of the night to be south of the 2-minute marker. Next man on the list, Volker Krebs. You see him on your screen, almost 2 seconds back. His fastest time is a 2:01.687. As you see some of the cameras that you're going to see and some of the markings that you're going to see on these cars. And as always, if you see the caution tape on these cars and the check mark on their graphics on screen, that means they have already qualified for April Zone Group Challenge Championship. And you will see that on PCA Sim Racing's channels as well in a few weeks' time. But as it stands, we're still trying to figure out who is going to make it in. Again, the top 4 drivers in each class from each zone of the PCA have qualified. In some cases less than that. Some classes, or some zones rather, don't have enough drivers to fill out an entire class's roster. In some cases they do have extras. So what we are racing for here is, you can see some of the wonderful action from Sonoma on your screen, but some of the things that we're keeping our eye on, namely the drivers who have yet to qualify for the Zone Group Challenge Championship. We'll have a handful of those who won't have the caution tape and or the check mark on their screens, and those drivers are the ones who are racing for a spot in next month's competition. We will take the top 3 in each class regardless of zone, which is different from the first qualifying stage that we went through, in which we were taking drivers by zone. Here it's just everybody's racing, and the top 3 in points beyond everybody else are going to go after it. So will add to these fields. And in some cases, it's fields of almost, 55, 60 drivers, Taylor Burris, which means that sim racing, sports car racing, and especially this 911 RS, I'd say all racing and all parts, pretty alive and well.
It certainly is, and especially in the sports car world when it comes to this with the PCA racing. And a lot of the drivers in the PCA are constantly racing week in and week out throughout the week with, of course, the EDEs that they have here that help teach up-and-coming PCA drivers how to race. And, of course, they can race in, of course, the official iRacing series with these Porsches.
And tonight's broadcast of the Challenge class is brought to you by our friends at Z1 Dashboard. The Z1 Dashboard is aimed at improving the most important part of the car, you, the driver. The Z1 Dashboard gives you easy-to-understand explanations on where you're losing and gaining time and how you can improve your driving. With this many analysis screens, you'll be able to quickly find out where you can lower your lap times. And in addition to sim racing, the Z1 Dashboard works with data from real-world events like track days and club races. Using the Z1 Dashboard to examine your laps is an essential tool to becoming a faster driver. To find out more information, you can visit them at z1dashboard.com. Let's take a look at our starting grid for tonight's race. Robert Rose maintains the pole, and the top three drivers all already qualified for the championship in April. Stephen Kemp, Volker Krebs starting second and third. Ryan Rapolas is the fastest of the drivers who have not yet qualified. He'll start fourth. Fifth on the grid is Scott Rogers. Kim Frick will roll off from sixth. Seventh, eighth, and ninth, all drivers looking to qualify for the Zone Group Challenge Championship. Alan Kirby and David Snelling and David Purdy, with David Palmer completing the top 10. Taylor.
In the 11th position, Anchor Bergson will be starting in 11th, followed by Daniel Florian in 12th. Andrew Smiley will be starting in 13th, with Abhijit Baru in 14th. Michael Bergone will be starting in 15th, followed by Jack Stevenson in 16th. Stacy Owada will be starting in 17th, followed by James Adam Fox in 18th. Jim Hemming will be starting in 19th, and Andrew Hilleman will round out your top 20.
21st night is John Kearney with Andrew McCune in 22nd. Bruce Frobe is in 23rd, 24th. Stefan Uradaka, 25th. Robert Ilf and Freddie Lopez, 26th. Chuck Paff and Sam Mosley.
We get set for action from Road America. We'll take you through this track in just a few moments, but we're going to go straight to green flag racing, and we are off and underway. Robert Rose leads them down to turn one in the challenge class presented by Z1 Dashboard, where the PCA Zone Group Challenge Round 3 at Road America is off and away. Rose with a good start. Big dive there from, I believe that was Scott Rogers, who tried to save it and then goes off in the grass, and he's joined by Volker Krebs, and a big contact there right at the top of the hill. Cars everywhere, as it only looked like about the first 3 or 4, maybe 5 managed to sneak through, but that is going to shake up the running order significantly. David Snelling was the last one to make it through clean, and then they all got bottled up with the Briggs & Stratton sign. Taylor.
They certainly have, and unfortunately a lot of damaged race cars are coming through the field right now, and they're probably going to have to end their night here early. Abhijit Baru involved, Freddie Lopez, I mean everyone who was around those drivers. Volker Krebs, who was starting on the outside row, involved in this incident, so a tough break for a lot of heavy hitters in this series.
Big moment there. So it's Rose, Rapolas, Frick, Snelling, Purdy has damage to his machine. I'm looking to see which car out of this mess is the next clean one, and I think the answer to that question may well be Michael Burgoyne, who started in 15th and currently is running in the 8th position. I think he managed to sneak out of all of this and end up with a clean car after all, Rachel.
Right now, of course, Robert Rose out front with a considerable lead here as he comes into Canada. And next behind him, Stephen Kemp and a couple of others. Order's been shaken up quite significantly here. We've had Volker Krebs off the track, actually just a few corners back from them, leading towards, and contact there with another vehicle behind him. I'm trying to work out who that was. I think that was the 248 there. So big casualty count on this first lap. That was Anker Bergeson, as this one has not gone well for anybody, I'm pretty sure. We'll look at timing now as they start to come across the line here. Complete lap 1, Robert Rose is across the line as cars start to hit pit road. Second place is Rapolas. He is 4.6 seconds back after that first lap with Kim Frick, David Snelling, and Stephen Kemp in there as well. Volker Crib is limping his way back in after his own incident, as this running order is all over the place right now, Taylor.
It certainly is, and as we keep an eye on the battle right now, you're on board with a couple of drivers as they work their way down the front straightaway here. A couple of drivers who I'm trying to keep an eye on, see if they're able to work their way down through this situation that's going on. It's those who have the severe damage. Are they going to come down pit road? You're on board right now with one of the drivers who was involved in that incident, Baru, who is currently in 14th in a battle right now with Stefan Juratka as they dive it down towards the back half of the straightaway.
And now we're starting to see just what kind of effect that incident had as we start looking at some of the drivers who have come through it and made their way up towards the front, and some surprises for sure. When you look at the names at the back half of the top 10, in particular, Adam Fox started in 18th. He's up to 6th. Michael Bergor, we talked about, 15th to 7th. How about Andrew McCune, who has a little bit of damage to the right front of his Porsche 911, but started in 22nd and all the way up to 8th. David Purdy did a nice job snaking his way through the madness, and he's right where he started in the 9th spot. And then you start seeing a little bit more normality, but it's shuffled. Those who are about 5th to 10th end up taking a huge hit. And you look a little bit further back in the point standings, and some of the drivers who are fighting for a spot in the Zone Group Challenge Championship within this challenge class, and it's going to put some people in a very, very big hole. Alan Kirby is one that jumps out to me. He's got some damage. I think David Snelling caught a little bit of that as well. Abhijit Barua is another one that Taylor talked about. Chuck Palfy isn't having the greatest of nights already, so we could see some shakeup towards the top of the standings. It could make things intriguing on that front.
Yeah, Kim Frick here is missing the whole hood off his car, which is going to really cost him in top-end speed, especially on these straights. He's up behind Rapalus, though, so he's doing something right at the moment. Although I wonder what that car will do once it's out of the draft. This is going to be a big impact for him. He might be able to pass, but can he keep that position? But right now, he's at least running, and he seems to be in good speed. But we'll see on the straight here. Look at how much Rapalus pulls away there underneath the Sargento Bridge, and it's significant.
About a 10-mile-an-hour difference, Taylor Burris, when they enter turn 5, which as we talk about turn 5, I guess now maybe we've seen enough to where we can talk a little bit more about this racetrack. We didn't get the chance to do that at the very beginning of the show, so as you're right on board with Stephen Kemp, we'll go ahead and do that now. This is, of course, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We're about an hour north of Milwaukee, if you are looking at your maps of the country. We're on the main road course layout. It's a 4.048 mile, 6.515 kilometer circuit with 14 turns that opened in 1955. This race is 30 minutes plus 1 lap. In-sim time is this, or rather a few upcoming Fridays from now. April 2nd, 2021, around 9:30 a.m. local time. Air temp 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp 70 degrees Fahrenheit, winds to the north at 2 miles an hour, and humidity of 28%. So, standard conditions, the weather in sim should not change throughout most of this race, but the running order could change a lot. And we'll shuffle our way back to David Snelling and Stephen Kemp. Top battle here for 4th and 5th as they work their way through Canada Corner. This is really, really solid stuff here at Taylor Burris as you look on board with Stephen Kemp out of Zone 10, the Nordstern region, the North Star region. For those who might not be literate in German, fitting then that Minnesota is where Stephen Kemp calls home.
Certainly is. I mean, this is pretty much a home track. And let's go on board with Stephen Kemp as we take you a quick little lap around here as he's trying to work his way around one of his competitors, David Snelling, as they work their way heading into turn number 1. Now, you have to make sure you hit the brakes here and try to run the inside lane. It's very difficult to make a pass on the outside here. Turn 3 is that downhill corner, so drivers are going to have to be careful with overshooting this corner because it's very easy to do and you'll end up in the gravel traps while they come out of turn 3 through the moraine sweep. And drivers can utilize this opportunity to make sure that they utilize the draft to try to catch up to their competitors before they head to the most interesting corner and also one of the best passing zones, turn number 5. It's downhill. It's a very hard braking zone as we see the two competitors hit their mark. Little lockup actually right there from Snelling as they climb up the hill, heading over to turn 6, pretty much a 90-degree corner as you work your way underneath the Corvette bridge. And now into turn 7 as a car goes off right in front of both Snelling and Stephen Kemp as they work their way to the hurry downs and turn 8, which is another corner you can easily overshoot. As you work your way over through there, you come underneath the Road America Bridge through the carousel. Now, the carousel, you have to make sure you build up enough momentum to carry you through there as best that you can, with enough momentum to set up for these next couple of corners ahead of you. You have the kink, which is you can take at full speed with these GT cars as you work through there, and then you work into the kettle bottoms, and then, of course, another great passing opportunity, Canada corner, James, and this here is going to be a good opportunity if we can see Snelling get to the inside as another car locks up his brakes right in front of our two drivers right here. They're able to keep going as they head through Thunder Valley, and, of course, back around here to complete another lap.
Up through Thunder Valley, and then the final turn of the course, turn 14. This section, one of those where you have to find the edge and ride it. You can't necessarily go full tilt until you get back onto this front straightaway, come up the hill as you work your way away from the lake, and jump up onto the main pit section of the front straight, run past the start-finish line, and then you work slightly downhill into turn 1 before you make the move under the Briggs and Stratton sign and work your way downhill towards turn 3. Just about a full lap that we described there for you at Road America. And if you're looking for spots to watch, I think above all else, turn 5 is the standout here in terms of difficulty. And there is no turn tougher on this racetrack than turn 5. You come out of the moraine sweep, and it's after a long straightaway. It's a downhill braking zone. You have to get down to usually second or first gear, depending on how you have your car set up. But it's not easy. And that's not to say that turn 6 is all that easy either, because the turn and the apex sort of plateaus. As you crest the hill, you're on the brakes before you even flatten the car out. And you sort of lose the rear end a little bit going up the hill, and that can make that part of the racetrack difficult. Turn 8 is also very easy to overshoot. You see our field of cars coming through that section of the racetrack now. And then turns 9 and 10, the carousel, the signature part of this course. You nearly go a full 180, actually beyond a full 180. It's about maybe call it 280, 290 degrees that you take before you go full tilt through the kink and through the kettle bottoms to Canada corner, and carrying speed out of the carousel. So important to make sure you get that good run down the kettle bottoms and potentially set yourself up for a passing opportunity into turn 12.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a car go off down on the hurry downs, but no, the carousel is an interesting corner because you don't seem to realize from the camera angle just the elevation change you go through in the carousel. It is a full 2 stories of elevation difference, actually. If you look at the size of the hill that's there, it is significant. So you drop quite a lot as you go around there, which does give you a speed boost on exit.
Oh, look at everybody going sideways off the road here. How about that? David Snelling went off in the final corner. Kim Frick decided to follow him, and Stephen Kemp, who was riding in 5th, when they were going through Thunder Valley that last time by, leapfrogged all of them to take over the 3rd spot. So that's a little piece of work from Stephen Kemp to grab a podium position there.
Yeah, let's take a look at this replay right here as you see the battle between these two. As we watch on board with this instant replay. Ooh, big off for those two as they just absolutely missed the final corner. And then it's a drag race out of the grass as they work their way through. As they hit the mark, you see on board with Stephen Kemp there, you'll go off the track, and Stephen Kemp will just work his way to the inside and snake his way through and pick on his way. He's continuing in that 3rd spot to see if he can make up ground on Ryan Ravalos.
That's a pretty simple explanation there, I think, Rachel. You see one driver make the mistake in front of you, and sometimes it's very easy for cars following the line of car ahead of them to make the same mistake. It very much is that classic case in monkey see, monkey do, and all of a sudden you've got 2 or 3 cars that go off of the racetrack at a certain point instead of just the one. That's exactly what happened to Kim Frick, who followed David Snelling off, and Stephen Kemp was able to get the spot. So Kemp up to 3rd, and it now means that the best battle on the racetrack probably belongs back to P13 and then P14 and 15, where David Purdy and Robert Isle are fighting for position.
Yeah, certainly are, of course. And it's more of a sympathetic thing because you see them make a mistake and you try and predict where they're going to end up. Because if they go off in a certain way, they might come back on the racetrack. So you're changing your cornering behavior to react to how that car's going to maybe come back into your line of racing, and that could be exactly what causes people to do the same exact thing, or they're so focused on the rear bumper of the car they just keep going the same way.
potentially, as you see Robert Isle with the damage on his car. He was one of the many machines that got swept up in one of the early incidents, so not a huge surprise to see Isle struggling a little bit, but beyond that, still some good battles in this field. Stefan Yeriak, Mosley just a little bit ahead of this group in a good fight for 12th. Jim Hemmick and Avijit Barua in a good fight for 9th and 10th as well. And then a few other battles throughout the racetrack, but we'll keep our eyes peeled and see where we're going to head, and we'll slide over to Jim Hemmick, the National Marketing Director for the Porsche Club of America and a member of Zone 2, the Chesapeake region, which covers the general Baltimore area and the Eastern Bay of Maryland. So if Annapolis or Baltimore is home, that's usually where you will find yourself if you're Chesapeake regioning it. Somewhere, some way, somehow. You see this long run down the front straightaway that these cars have to go through. And also the accuracy of the simulation. Technically, it's supposed to be a straight line, but you get some of those zoomed up shots and you get some of the close-ups of the front straightaway here, and you see that, technically speaking, it is not a straight line. And that is because iRacing, the platform that we're using for tonight's events, laser scans all of these tracks to the millimeters. So even though they're supposed to be straight, it accounts for human error and captures all of that as well, so the drivers have to deal with the slight variations in border to make things work.
Certainly so, James, as you see some of the great camera works provided by Dougie Beard to show all those little angles and divots on the surface of the racetrack as we zoom in on the certain angles like we saw in the front straightaway here. But as we watch this battle between these drivers in the 3rd and 4th position, or the 4th and 5th position between Frick and Snelling, these drivers are trying to push the limits even more so. They're already falling back and lost a little bit of time on their competitor Stephen Kim. But watching these two battle as they work their way past the King heading to Canada Corner, they are trying to give it 110% and wanting to see if they can have a chance to showcase their talents when they go to compete for the Zone Group Championship.
Get the opportunity to maybe learn and potentially pick up a few notes that you can use when we get to the big races in April. That's certainly something that I think we have to keep our eyes on, as are the drivers who are fighting for a place in that final 2-race pair in April, where we find out which zone is the fastest of the fast in PCA sim racing. Ryan Rapolas leads the group of drivers who have yet to qualify. David Snelling is second. Those two, incidentally, 1 and 2 in points, or 2 and 1 rather, respectively, in points coming tonight. So Rapolas might be able to leapfrog Snelling per se, as Tim Frick goes off the road in turn 1, and Snelling now jumps up to 4th instead of 5th. So that might tighten up the battle a little bit there. Beyond that, I believe it might be maybe a John Curry, Avijit Barua. I think it is Avijit Barua who's 3rd amongst the drivers who have yet to qualify. But as it stands, we've hit the midway race break, so it is time to go through the field and tell you where your favorite driver is running in our first mid-race report of the evening, brought to you by Z1 Dashboard. Robert Rose is your race leader, led since the drop of the green and has had no competition. He is up in front and doing a nice job for the Shenandoah region, Zone 2. All of Virginia, proud to see Robert Rose leading this field at Road America in the Challenge Clash. Second at the moment belongs to Ryan Rapolas, the 666 machine, running nicely, part of the Reason Total region and also part of Zone 2, so a really strong showing for Zone number 2 in this first class of the evening. He's got a good run going. Stephen Kemp rides in the 3rd position out of the Nordstein region and out of Zone 10. David Snelling hanging out there just a little bit further back of him. It's about maybe a 6-second gap back to Snelling, who is our highest running driver from Zone 1, part of the Northeast region, which covers the greater Boston area. So Kim and Snelling 3rd and 4th. 5th is Kim Frick, although that could well change here. Frick has had a torrid time managing this machine with the damage that it picked up in the opening incident out of Zone 1, the Niagara region, covering the Buffalo area. 6th is the 021 of Michael Burgoyne out of Zone 6, the Oregon region, covering the greater Portland area. He's up there as well. 7th, as it stands, belongs to Adam Fox, the Metropolitan New York region, another Zone 1 driver. We know how strong they've been in this challenge class. 8th is where you'll find John Kearney out of the Metro New York region, another Zone 1 driver. Just stacking it up in the top 10 tonight in this first class in 4. 9th is currently Avijit Barua of the Mid-Ohio region. Zone 4 is where he sits, and 10th on the grid just talked about it a little bit earlier. Zooming out of the Chesapeake region and another Zone 2 driver, adding to their strong showing in this challenge class.
In the 11th position, we will find, of course, as he's having some trouble right now, is the Peach State region of Sam Mosley. He just now gets passed by another Peach State driver, David Purdy, in the 0-1-0. Currently ran a fast time of a 2:07 last time around as he's looking to try to work his way up through the field. In 12th position, right behind him from the Rocky Mount region, Andrew McCune, trying to see if he can run them down. This is the battle, of course, for the 11th position as they work their way over into turn number 1. In 13th, from the Upper Canada region, Stefan Yuratka from Zone 1, looking to see if he can find his way to compete for a zone championship. In 14th position, car 981 from the Rally Sport region, it is going to be Chuck Palaffi. He's currently trying to see if he can be in this mix of a battle for that 14th position as they work their way out of turn 3. Behind him, Stacy Iwata from the Canada West region, Zone 6. In car number 16, as you ride on board with him right now, he's going to take a peek to the inside as they work down towards turn number 5. 16th, you will find Robert Isle from the Ohio Valley region as Iwata gets a little bit loose, and he will now drop back to 16th. So a good pass for Robert Isle. 17th, if we go further back, is Anchored Birdsong from the Northeast region, Zone 1. As he's out here in the Midwest, gotten caught up in the lap 1 incident here at Road America and looking to see if he can try to find a way to improve. 18th, you'll find Upper Canada region's David Palmer in car 72, looking to see if he can get a better result in that Martini livery paint scheme as they work his way out towards the Hurry Downs here, having a good run but needs to improve. North Country region's Alan Kirby sits in 19th, pretty much in all by himself, just trying to race the racetrack and survive here at Road America. Rounding out your top 20, as we get a little further back, is Daniel Florian from the Carolinas region in car 911 from Zone 3.
21st place tonight is Andrew Smiley, car 167, Connecticut Valley region of zone number 1. He's locked down, of course, involved in the early incident. 13th, he started currently, of course, there. It's 22nd place tonight. We're also running Sam Mosley, car number 4. The Peach State region, zone number 3. Also another driver been involved in those early incidents we experienced tonight, but working his way for those points. Andrew Hillman, 23rd, car number 11 from the Sloan Sand region, zone number 10. As I'll get corrected on that one, of course, not qualified in himself. 24th tonight is Bruce Freeby, car 130. He's qualified in from the Red River region, zone number 10, and I definitely mispronounced that one. As 25th tonight, another victim of the lap 1 moment was Freddie Lopez. The Pacific Northwest region, zone number 6, the 777 car, doing his best to try and get something back from this, as Volker Krebs behind him. 26th place from right at the front of the grid. In fact, as he takes a run off the track, that's kind of you, Volker. The 53 car, 053, Canada West region, zone number 6. 27th tonight, Jack Stevenson, he's checked in the 22 machine, and I believe that's the last of our runners tonight.
And that will conclude our midway report. It's brought to you for the challenge class by its presenting partner, Z1 Dashboard. Robert Rose is unchallenged at the front, however, starting to have a good battle brew for the second spot. Stephen Kemp, who went to victory in this class 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen International, has caught Ryan Rapalos, the highest running of the non-qualified drivers just yet for the Zone Group Challenge Championship, and I have a hunch we may have a good fight for P2 in just a few moments.
We certainly will. I have a good fight as between Stephen Kemp and Ryan Rapalos. Kemp has worked his way up and caught the back bumper of Ryan Rapalos as they work their way underneath the Corvette bridge to turn number 6. As they continue to do battle here, we'll see if Kemp can find a way around Rapalos and set his sights on Robert Rose, which is going to be a tall order as Rose has checked out by about 15 seconds.
I think at this point you are running for points. You are running for a solid run, and I think if you're Rapalos, you don't really have much reason to push the issue, especially when you consider that Stephen Kemp has already qualified for the Zone Group Challenge Championship. So there's not really much to worry about there. You're not really fighting for any sort of points against him. It's really Abhijit Barua, the next one in line that you need to worry about. Is wonder if David Snelling may have had an issue, perhaps. We'll see if the 12 car gets rolling again. But I doubt that we're going to see much of a fight from Rapalus.
No, absolutely not. Rapalus is too far back, of course. 14 seconds is a huge gap, and Robert Rose has really run away with this one tonight. It's been crazy for him. Stephen Kemp, of course, has checked in. He's in P3, and he is working his way forwards here, but it's still pretty close with him and Rapalus. And unlike a couple of the cars, like Kim Frick, who had serious damage, Kemp's got a pretty clean car here. He should have a good chance to make something work with this one.
Should indeed, and he was faster by a full half a second the last time by. So Stephen Kemp with plenty of pace. It was a 2:03.9 to a 2:04.5, so 6/10 was what Kemp was able to drag back on Rapalus. And now this is going to be about the setup. The lap time won't be as quick, that much we know, but you figure there are a few opportunities with the draft and the tow that you're going to see Kemp try and make a move on Rapalus.
I believe also there might be a little bit of damage as well for Stephen Kemp, possibly, so that might cause a little bit of a hindrance for him of trying to do battle with him. Saying as we see Rapalus make a mistake, that's going to allow Stephen Kemp to go right in the inside and take away that second position as we see the battle right now go back here once again through turn 7 to the hurry downs. Let's take a look at the replay.
Issue there for Rapalus, maybe. It was interesting to see the way he slowed down, and I just caught the edge there trying to gas it up and get going up the hill to turn 6. But if you get off track there, Rachel, that's very treacherous, very easy to spin yourself out. So I think Rapalus just slowed down to catch the rear end, and what he did, it opened up the opportunity for Kent to complete the pass.
Yes, it is, and we've seen these cars specifically with the track that's narrow like Road America, and it might be high speed, but it is quite confined, and a lot of grass around here. These mid-engine cars, the weight balance, of course, if you get a rear wheel on the grass, it can really throw the car around. They're an amazing handling car, but just the whole setup overall of mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, narrow racetrack with runoff area, it means that those kinds of cars do tend to have a bit of a harder time. And we see it from things like the Lamborghinis, we see it from the Ferraris. They all have the same thing. It's just the orientation of the actual setup of the machine. But I have seen the Porsches actually handle it a little bit better, but Road America still will even mess with the best.
Road America absolutely will take the best out of you, as you see just how good Robert Rose has been. Absolutely all over it. 17-second lead for the 443 car. Likely no catching him unless we end up with some sort of issue. However, good battle back for 12th. We'll roll back there to Stefan Yoyaka and Stacy Iwata. These two are all over each other going through the hurry downs as you ride on board with Iwata out of the Canada West region in Zone 6 over there in British Columbia. And these two are going to see who wants to have a piece of one another, or maybe how about a little bit of bumping through the carousel as Yoyaka got a shot from Iwata, and now we'll see how they gather themselves up and come back through the carousel, through the kink, and to Canada Corner.
Well, the two Canadians are going to do battle as they come past the kink, heading through the kettle downs here, or the kettle bottoms, as they work their way through here, heading into Canada Corner. It looks like that Yoyaka will have enough of a gap to hold off Stacy Iwata as they enter into Canada Corner, as he gets a good run off corner exit. Iwata a little bit too loose off corner exit, so he's going to lose valuable time.
Big issue there as Iwata is going to slide back, and that's going to open up this battle a little bit more. It's still the closest on track, mind you. About 1.1 seconds in real time between Yoyaka and Iwata's machine, but these two are fighting for position and fighting for a spot just outside of the top 10. Everything else, though, pretty well spaced out over these 30 minutes.
Yes, certainly are, of course, and it has been a real spread in this race. From the lap 1 incident we saw that completely shook up this field, we've seen an absolute opportunity here for some guys who are not locked in to get better results in this thing because they're a little bit further back, and it's opened up their opportunities to really see this race differently. However, of course, we've got the likes of Robert Rose, Stephen Kemp, Ryan Rapalus out front who've been really pushing this thing today, but it's been a crazy race, and I think we've not really seen the true fit of Road America until we get a race without that sort of moment on lap 1.
Of course, we say all this, and then interesting here how Iwata has managed to climb right back onto the rear bumper of Urianka, who nearly went wide in turn 5 and gathered it back up. But Iwata is right there, just as he was in the hurry down. So I feel like Iwata has more pace by nature. He just needs to find the right opportunity to get around the 25 and make the pass happen.
He certainly is, as we see the crossover now between the two drivers as they head their way into, looks like to be turn number 8 right there as they work to the carousel. Iwata is just trying to find a different lane to get around it, but it's not working just yet as they hug the inside line. A good opportunity to build that momentum. If you're able to pull this off and building that momentum, it's kind of like almost lining up a wind-up to it. If you can get enough of it going, you can be able to slingshot out of there with enough speed to help propel you to get past your competitors.
With as close as Iwata was in turn 8, and given that he had the preferred line, I was surprised that he backed out of the move there. I figured he would have tried to force the issue, stick that car to the inside of Urianka's machine, and force Urianka to check up on the outside of the apex. But instead, Iwata was the one who backed out, and it is still Urianka who holds onto the spot. But you see the run that Iwata gets through some of these corners, through turn 14, and there's a mistake there as Iwata gets on the brakes a little bit too hard and runs into the grass. So that will space this out once again, but it's not quite over just yet. And more importantly, Robert Rose is going to come up the hill and take the white flag right now. One more lap to go for Robert Rose to finish off this race and get another victory in the challenge class presented by P1 or Z1 Dashboard.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic run with this one tonight, of course, and nearly at the point of actually looking towards lapping some of the drivers earlier on in this one from the back of the field. But Robert Rose has really driven this thing flawlessly. His lap times have been consistent, and he's been great.
Robert Rose in great shape here as we keep an eye on Iwata and Urianka. And oh, by the way, as these two have fought, it's brought Enko Bergsong into this great battle for 11th, 12th, and 13th as Iwata gets down on the brakes once again. Even with the nose damage, you see the pace difference and the advantage of the braking zones in particular that Iwata has on Urianka. He's just faster and is able to brake deeper as Bergsong sends himself off the racetrack just behind this group, just out of shot. So it's now a two-car battle once again, but Iwata is going to have a few more shots to try and get the spot.
He certainly is right now. He has a couple of more corners back out of turn 8. He gets a great run out of turn number 8 as they work their way through the carousel. He's going to try to see if he can wind it up enough to get a good slingshot out of the carousel. Has to back off now, and let's see what he can do. Gets a good run off corner exit. Will this be the opportunity he makes to slingshot before they get to the king? The answer is going to be not quite. He takes a peek, tries to go to the outside, but we see that Urianka is going to hold strong.
Maybe an opportunity in Canada corner. By the way, the next car just behind these two is Robert Rose completing his final lap. So we'll watch him make his run to the flag, and then we'll keep our eye on these two. This is the best battle on track still throughout the field. So we'll watch Rose take checkered, and then we'll keep our eyes peeled on this as Iwata gets into the back of Urianka once again. And I think Urianka finally got the message, and then Iwata goes wide and sends it off into the gravel trap, and that may well conclude that battle outright as Robert Rose will put Iwata a lap down, and Robert Rose will go to victory lane once again, flashes the lights across the line, and wins the challenge class presented by Z1 Dashboard in round 3 of the Zone Group Challenge qualifying series at Road America. Another impeccable drive for Robert Rose tonight.
An amazing run by him, of course. A phenomenal run by Robert Rose. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that battle is completely over now between Urianka and Iwata, who's gone off again in the final corner. Unfortunate.
Wrapped it up when he went a lap down right at the end. It ended his race as well because Rose had already come across the start-finish line. So instead of taking the white flag, Iwata ended up taking the checkered flag, and it will be Urianka who will be able to complete the extra lap. He was just ahead and still is just ahead of Robert Rose, who is still completing his way around, although at a more leisurely pace than he was. But Urianka is the last one who will complete this race. The final driver we need to wait for before we give you the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver to finish in this challenge class as we wait for the rest of the field to complete their races and finish off the event. We're now waiting on believe 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. John Kearney just crossed the start-finish line to claim 7th. Here comes Abhijit Barua, Jim Hemming, David Palmer, and Stefan Yuriadko, the final few drivers that need to finish off their races. Barua across the line. Here comes Jim Hemming up the hill. David Palmer just a little bit further back of Hemming. And then Yuriadko, who is just now in Canada Corner, beginning to complete his final run through Thunder Valley and the turn 13-14 complex to complete his challenge class race. The PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge at Road America. Yuriadko on your screens now. You get this great shot from Dougie Beard through turn 14 and over on the curves, around, up the hill he goes, and Yuriadko will cross the start-finish line to finish in the 11th position. And as Yuriadko comes across the line, we will turn our attention to the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Robert Rose, your winner once again. 2 weeks in a row, he's done that now. Stephen Kemp finishes in second. Ryan Rapolas is the fastest of the non-qualified drivers and finishes third overall. Kim Frick was fourth. Michael Burgoyne fifth overall in this race. Adam Fox and John Kearney complete the podium for the non-qualified drivers. They finish sixth and seventh respectively. Abhijit Barua finishes in the 8th spot. 9th goes to Jim Hemmigan. David Palmer will be racing in April, finishes 10th to 9th.
Stefan Yuriadko will come home in 11th, followed by Stacy Iwata in 12th. Robert Isle 13th with Chuck Palafi in 14th. Anchor Bergson will come home in 15th, followed by David Purdy in 16th. Alan Kirby in 17th with Andrew McCune in 18th. Daniel Florian will come home 19th, and Andrew Smiley rounds out your top 20.
21st tonight is going to be, as soon as it shows up there, Sam Mosley, who's not qualified in. Neither is 22nd Andrew Hillman. 23rd place Volker Krebs finished 2 laps down. He's qualified in, as is 24th Bruce Friobi. 25th place Freddie Lopez finishes there, 2 laps down. 26th Jack Stevenson, David Smelling in 27th, and Scott Rogers in 28th.
That completes your full field rundown for this challenge class race, which is presented to you by the Z1 dashboard. Ryan Rapolas now joins us in the booth. And Ryan, just a solid points night. Nothing, I think, you needed to do to really go out of your way to make it special. You had the one fight with Stephen Kemp there, but for the most part, I have to imagine tonight was just about racking up more points and making sure that you are one of the top 3 drivers to ensure you have a place in the competition come April.
Yeah, that's all I wanted, and I apologize for Steven on there. It gets really dicey. I don't think everyone's used to at the challenge level the extra drafting and pushing you get on the straightaway, so you got to brake a little bit earlier. So I apologize, and I let him by after that. But yeah, it was just about keeping on the road and keeping out of trouble. All during this week, there were so many crashes, so I just tried to keep it even keeled and just race fast enough to stay out of trouble. Unfortunately, it wasn't all that spectacular, but it was fun nevertheless to stay out of trouble. And Robert, shout out to Robert Rose for racing so fast as he was, and Zone 2, 4, and Resentor for local club for doing good stuff for us, and shout out to Hagerty and Porsche for sponsoring everything.
You come into tonight's second in points with where David Snelling finished. You are going to leave here the points leader. So does that change the way you approach Sebring, or is it just about being consistent and landing wherever you land?
I think try to get really fast during the week and what feels comfortable. And if anyone wants to give me a challenge, I'm gonna race hard. That's the name of the game, and race and have fun with it. You got to be ready for the championship at the end, right? So I'm gonna keep pushing hard and learning all the braking points and just keep pushing.
Ryan, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations on being the top driver amongst the non-qualified drivers, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Sebring.
Thanks again, and thanks to Josh Vieira for spotting me tonight. Thanks all.
Pretty good man and pretty fast one to have on top of starters. But if you are Ryan Rapolas, who is your top finisher of the non-qualified drivers in the challenge class this evening, presented by Z1 Dashboard, we turn now over to Taylor Burris, who is with Adam Fox, who is P2 amongst the non-qualified drivers this evening.
here with Adam Fox, who was one of the P2 in the non-qualifiers who finished here tonight. Adam, a great performance for you here tonight. Your thoughts on the track position as well as surviving that lap 1, turn 1 incident?
An absolute fluke.
I mean, what was your? How were you able to just avoid that to get this good finish that you were able to have inside the top 10 as you come home in 6th position, as you work your way through the field and just trying to survive?
I just drove as consistently as I could, having avoided most of the accident. I did actually get hit. The car seemed to drive okay, so I just kept going.
Well, as we look ahead through the rest of the season, your thoughts on having the chance to represent your zone for the Zone Group Challenge Championship?
I don't know that I will have the chance somehow, but if I do, I'll do my best. I'm generally the slowest person in the Northeast, but perhaps I'm becoming one of the more consistent. Probably what helps with that is that I run sim racing for the Metro New York region, where we train people to go on.
Well, before we let you go, Adam, is there anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Oh, probably Shabal Bandyopadhyay, who is my coach and is one of the pro drivers, and is already representing us.
All right, well, that is Adam Fox coming home P6 in the PCA Challenge class, and one of the representatives who will have a chance to try to compete in the Zone Group Championship. And Rachel, I believe you have our next competitor who is looking his way to get into there, and that, I'm trying to make sure I look at my notes right. Who do you have? John Kearney is with you.
Yeah, we certainly do. John Kearney came home today 7th overall in the race from 21st on the grid, a beneficiary of the Daytona-esque moment at the start. John, how was that getting through lap 1 for you?
Just stayed right, because you always expect that kind of stuff in this. So I stay right, go slow, and just kind of eased it through there.
Absolutely. And the race overall for you was a relatively stately affair. Things didn't seem to get too congested at any particular part, but is Road America a track you really gel with?
Say again?
I said, is Road America a track you personally quite get on with, or is it a track that's more new to you?
Actually, I've only really been doing it in the iRacing.
Well, fair enough. You certainly did great today, coming home for 3rd on the podium of non-qualified drivers. So congratulations to you. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
I'd like to drive our Metro guys. We've been getting us out there on off days to get some practice in.
Well, fantastic. Thanks for joining us tonight. John Kearney came home today in 3rd. James?
John Kearney comes home in P3 amongst the drivers who had not qualified. Leaves us one man to talk to, and that was your overall winner, Robert Rose, yet again, 2 weeks in a row. Starting to make this a bit of a habit now, aren't you?
I'd like to. I think that's a good habit to get into amongst all of them.
Nothing too wild, too complicated about this. How much confidence does it give you to be this much faster than the rest of the field? Do you feel like you may have the ability to jump in and really compete? And how well does this prepare you for April's championship races?
Yeah, I think every lap you turn is preparation, so I think it's always good, and I try to stay a little bit pragmatic about the pace, because really all it takes is one little off tire here or there, and you know you're in the middle of the pack or at the back. So I think you got to be realistic and stay focused and just put the laps in, and try to put the pace of the other guys out of your mind and just drive out the windshield instead of the back.
Sebring, next week, one more race here before we get set for the big show. Flat, certainly no elevation changes. You looking forward to it?
Oh yeah, I love Sebring. I'm a Florida kid. I grew up not too far from there in the Tampa Bay area, and I've got some real life laps in Sebring, albeit in a shifter cart, so a lot different view. But I think I go okay at Sebring. I like the track. I'm going to be doing a lot of laps there next week, because we'll be running the 12 hours with the team on Saturday next week. So it's going to be all about Sebring next week, and I love it there.
Robert, congratulations on your victory tonight from all of us at Podium Esports, and we look forward to seeing you in Sebring next Friday night.
Yes, sir. And like always, I'd like to thank all the guys at PCA Sim Racing that make this happen for us, Hagerty Motorsports and the Z1 fellas for sponsoring the challenge class. Their software is great. And then as well as the Zone 2-4 guys, awesome group to race with week in, week out, really pushing each other to get better. So I appreciate everyone that's involved. Thank you.
Robert Rose, your class winner for this challenge class of the PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge, which is brought to you by the Z1 Dashboard. We are 1/4 of the way through proceedings this evening. For those of you watching on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel, now is the time to go ahead and click on that blue button on the bottom left-hand portion of your screen. Go back to the main channel page and click the Sport Class race video. That's where we'll head next. We'll bring you the second race of the evening, the Sport Class presented by Pirelli. For those of you watching on Facebook or Twitch, stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. We'll have more action from PCA Sim Racing coming up right after this. This is PCA Sim Racing, where the racing might not be real, but the competition is indeed very, very real. And all presented this year by Hagerty. Big thanks to Hagerty for their support of PCA Sim Racing. You'll see more coverage of the PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge from Road America coming up, presented by Podium Esports.